Hi everyone, welcome back to the Reunion Week podcast. I'm excited to tell you with me today is Jason Rutherford. Hi Jason.
Hey guys, how are y'all? Hi Jason.
Hey man, so we want to talk tonight about evening assembly and worship. And so we're going to be studying, practicing the way and the book of Mark. Why are you excited about teaching discipleship out at camp?
Man, part of what we do, what we're called to do at Lujo, I think, is to help make disciples. And what better way to do that than a week that is in one of our favorite places in the whole wide world, right? Camp Lujo, studying the Gospel of Mark.
Awesome, yeah. And so we're going to go right into what we're going to be talking each worship and evening assembly. First of all, on Sunday, kind of the big introduction to it. It's called Invitation and Agreement. What are you thinking about on Sunday night?
Just Mark's Gospel starts so quickly. There's a lot of action, and there's this what seems like this crazy pace of Jesus. But when you look at his life, Jesus never hurries. And what he calls us to is this life of discipleship. And it's a slow process. And so I just want our campers and our staff to understand that there's this invitation that Jesus offers all of us. And the agreement on the other side is that we will do our best to lean into this process and to trust Christ with all of our being to become like him.
And so there's a level of commitment as well, right?
Absolutely.
In deciding to be a disciple.
Yes.
But it is fun how Jesus chooses who he wants to choose, whoever he needs to have be his disciple, and then a level of commitment comes with that.
That's right.
And we'll get into more of that when we talk on Monday night, because there is this reward for being a Christian and being a disciple and following Jesus. What is the reward to following Jesus?
I think sometimes we think it's going to heaven, and why that's certainly great and something that we can look forward to. The reward for following Jesus is actually Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah.
It seems like a no-brainer, but the truth is, what better reward could we have than Jesus ourselves?
Right, to take on his character, to emulate his life, to be with him, to do the things that he did. There's nothing greater, there's nothing better.
And so Tuesday night, we're going to be speaking about something that I'm pretty excited about. We've entitled it, Contaminating the World with Jesus' Holiness. What in the world are you talking about there?
Yeah, so in Mark's Gospel, all the Gospels really, there's these showdowns that Jesus has with the religious leaders. And a lot of times there's this argument that builds over the Jewish traditions. They're all trying to protect God's holiness in their perceived practice. And Jesus comes along and he touches lepers and he's healing the sick and he's driving out demons. And what Jesus is doing, how Mark portrays Jesus as one who's contaminating the world with God's holiness. He's not trying to protect it or keep it safe, but it's extending outwards. And you see that in the announcement of the arrival of the kingdom of God in Mark chapter 1.
And, through the years, I've talked to different Christians, and we've been more worried about being contaminated by the world as Christians, or that sin is somehow contaminating the world. So it's really a different picture to see that the love of Jesus and who Jesus is actually contaminating us.
That's
as
right.
we move forward.
That's right.
Very cool. Wednesday night, we're going to go right into a very important time. We're talking about everything is possible with Jesus. What are we going to talk about there?
Yeah, there's this beautiful story right after the transfiguration in Mark chapter 9 where some of the disciples that didn't get to go with Jesus, Peter and John, up to the top of the mountain, so to speak, or down with this family, and there's this kid that is sick, and the disciples can't heal this kid, and the father's frustrated. And Jesus uses this as an object lesson, kind of about faith, but there's this give and take conversation that happens, and the man, frustration and despair, says to Jesus, if you can do anything, and Jesus tells him that, with him, all things are possible.
Yeah, so everything is possible with Jesus.
That's
is what
right.
we're talking about
That's
Wednesday
right.
night. And by the way, on Wednesday night, that'll be the night when we have our prayer pods, which means each one of the campers are going to get an opportunity to be prayed by the camp staff member of their choice.
That's right.
And so that's always a pretty special and precious time as well.
And what a better way to illustrate the possibilities that exist as the children of God when we go to our Father in prayer. And I've always enjoyed the Wednesday night prayer pods. It's just so powerful.
And so on Thursday night, we're getting to the end of the week, and really we're going to be focusing on the last few hours of Jesus' life before his death, burial, and resurrection, and focusing on his death, burial, and resurrection both Thursday and Friday. And it's a very pivotal time for campers usually. They've been away from the world. They've been into what we've created there in our environment, and they've gotten to know Jesus, hopefully, by then. And now we're going to tell them what Jesus has done to save their soul.
That's right. Like the buildup in the Gospel of Mark kind of puts the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus as this pivotal moment, to borrow from your language there for just a second ago. And I think sometimes as we encounter the Gospels, we're so used to reading them and seeing them and hearing about them that I think sometimes these stories, particularly the crucifixion story, becomes this, it's just a few words here and then we skip it. And so my aim is to spend a little bit of time trying to unpack that a little bit and just really help us all understand the great beauty and value there in that story.
So slow it down, really meditate about it.
Absolutely.
Think a little bit about what the crucifixion means on Thursday night. And finally, on Friday night, we talk about how it really should have been the end of the story. Tell us a little bit about how Mark ends and what you were thinking there on Friday night.
Yeah, so some of the most ancient manuscripts that's been found of the Gospel of Mark, some of the earliest New Testament records of Mark's Gospel end at the end of verse 8 with the women that were the first witnesses of the resurrection leaving kind of with fear and trembling or in bewilderment. And you're meant to sit there and think about, well, they must have found their courage, because here we are some 2,000 years later as disciples of Jesus, right? Because these ladies found their courage and they shared with the disciples the news about the empty tomb. It's life-shattering, life-altering news that they found, and we get to still reap the benefit of that story.
So yeah, that's what evening assembly is going to be about. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So to go over it one more time with everybody, Sunday night, Jason will be our speaker each night of the week. Sunday night, he'll be speaking on invitation and agreement. Monday night, he'll be talking about reward for following Jesus is Jesus. On Tuesday night, we're going to be talking about contaminating the world with Jesus' holiness. Wednesday night, we're going to be talking about how everything is possible with Jesus. Thursday night, we're talking about the crucifixion, and on Friday night, we're talking about how it should have been the end of the story, and it's not the end of the story because we are the end of the story, and so it's a real opportunity for us to invite the kids to be disciples along with all of us. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we do on evening worship, and Jason, thanks for coming and joining us, and I look forward to hearing all of your lessons. I know you've already prepared some.
I've been working on it.
Yeah, all right. Y'all have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining the podcast.